This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for the Intentionality Gurus with Candace Pollock. And I love what we're going to be talking about today. At least I think I know what we're talking about. Uh, what the study of happiness reveals. And um, happiness is something that we all are want to seek, but some of us don't know how to get there.
Yeah, and it's even in the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness. So, which is really an interesting phenomenon. I was reminded of that reading a article from the University of Denver, of all things. I don't subscribe to it, but it came about as an email that I received related to Tal Ben Shahar. And
Okay.
he wrote Happiness, I think, in 2007, 2008, and then a number of other books. And in fact, he's one of the co-founders of the Whole Being Institute. And I have a friend who's in his master's program on happiness. And they just opened up soon to follow the PhD program in happiness.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's a professor or has been a professor at Harvard, and studying and instructing about researching and so on, happiness. So there's a lot of stuff there.
So, in theory, he's a happiness expert.
Exactly. Yeah. And ironically, the pursuit of happiness can actually make us unhappy, is what a lot of the studies reveal. I mean, so go figure.
Well, it sort of makes sense, but I'm going to let you lead because we have not discussed this ahead of time.
No, we have not. Well, and we rarely do, or
Right.
never do. All right. So in a previous episode, we talked about attentional bias. And so the idea is, with attentional bias or deficit, the idea is we're hardwired to look for the negative. So even if we're pursuing happiness, we're probably picking up more cues, and maybe that's my qualifier, but we're at risk of picking up negative cues, to not see the positive and basically kind of dwell on the negative, because that's part of our innate survival system. We have to be on the lookout for risks,
Right.
and so on. And what he tells us is, by sharing, it was his article in the University of Denver about research that was done at the University of Denver. And he says that the pursuit of happiness is, again, in the Declaration of Independence, but it actually can be self-defeating. That's what the study of a psychology professor at the University of Denver was able to discern. And so, what are your instincts about why that would be so?
Well, this goes back to my upbringing about, being a people pleaser and trying to make sure that everybody around you is happy or content. And I know I finally figured it out maybe 10, 15 years ago when I all of a sudden realized I'm trying to make everybody happy. I'm not always succeeding, but the worst part is I'm not experiencing the happiness myself because I'm working too hard at it.
Yeah, so it's like trying to grasp water. It'll never quite work the way we think it will, and that can lead to the disappointment. And the research at the University of Denver actually shows that symptoms of depression, or depressive symptoms, it may not rise to the level of depression, but at least that sense of not being fulfilled.
Right.
And so, as they say, it can be self-defeating. And part of it comes from the idea that we should be happy.
Okay.
And I remember having this conversation with a colleague years and years ago. It's got to be like 20 years ago. And her thought was that we shouldn't expect to be happy. And I mull that over from time to time, because it's the expectation that certain activities, for instance, certain achievements should make us happy.
Right.
When I achieve such and such, I'll be happy. So
Yep.
do you know anybody that's had those episodes?
Oh, I have them all the time. In fact, I had one yesterday when, it was Father's Day, the first Father's Day for Rich, not having Alex around. And uh, he actually started the morning a little moody, and I just kept trying to lead him into like things that might break that. And the more I did, um, the m- he just kept pulling away. And finally I just had to walk away myself. It's like, you know, I can't make you happy. And I know you're feeling disappointed. Um, but you're going to have to deal with it. And he finally did. It was like he said to me later in the day, you know, I thought this was going to be such a great Father's Day because Alex called me early in the morning and but yet I'm not feeling it. And again, I don't know if he had expectations for the day or not, but whatever it was, he finally flipped the switch and realized, hey, I'm pretty lucky with what I have.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's really great. And it, points to another type of scenarios like the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, all of those, go on. And so all of those types of holidays where we should be happy and be with family, or just going back to say, to visit the family. And, as much as we might love people, it's not the same. And who is it? Ram Dass said that, oh, you think you're so evolved, go home and, go visit your home again and for 3 days and see what happens, because there's other stuff, but our anticipation of it, that, oh, it theoretically it'll be fun, we forget all the other dynamics that are part of it.
Exactly.
Um, so the idea is that, you know, maybe switching our perspective, our field of vision, or our attentional deficit away from, the pursuit of happiness into other things. So what other ways might you think of in order to, rather than pursuing happiness, what other ways would you approach it?
Well, doing things that nurture yourself. Um, you know, I think too many times, at least for myself, um, I don't think about what I'm doing. I'm going through routines and, you know, I don't feel fulfilled. And to me, fulfillment is a form of happiness. And at the end of the day, I just like, what did I do? But if I sort of go into the day more mindful in doing the things that I know I enjoy, at the end of the day, I'm feeling, for better lack of term, I'm feeling happy.
Yeah, that's so spot on. And sure you didn't read this article? Because that's what they talk about. They call that being smart ways to pursue happiness. And we'll talk about it in another episode. But, the idea is to be not just, well, to be building in those moments where we can have that byproduct, so to speak, of happiness from an activity we enjoy. Right. So it might be, getting that sense of fulfillment, but what could you build into your day that each day or each week at a minimum that would give you that sense as a byproduct?
Well, for me, one of the things that I've started doing, um, and it's probably been a little over a year, is that when I'm working in the studio, um, I've got this nice big window that looks out on trees and grass, and I just take moments of looking outside and appreciating what I can see. Um, and on other days, I'll actually, go outside and stand in the grass and just look around, even just for a few minutes. It's almost like I'm cleansing everything out of me. And that makes me content and happy.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So to be able to build those things in and be really intentional about it,
Right.
can help just raise the level. And Brian Johnson talks about this spiral where the highs are higher and the lows are higher, so that we're up leveling our sense of experience and interactions with others. So the other thing that the research showed up at the University of Denver is that when things don't go, when we have that disappointment and those depressive symptoms and so on, we tend to blame ourselves. There's an element that we failed somehow. So what occurs to you when I say that?
As soon as you started talking, this picture came to mind. A couple of, well, it's probably about 10 years now. Rich asked me to take some time off from work. And he said he was going to take me away for a couple of days. Didn't tell me where. And so the anticipation was like really exciting. Okay. I'm taking off work. Rich and I are going someplace. And those of you listening, you may not even know it exists on the map, but he took me to a place called Marion, Ohio. And
Mhm.
he had looked up all these things that supposedly are features of the city. And we got there, and I mean, I really ruined it for us because it was like, you brought me here? Why? And the one museum he wanted to go to um, was closed for renovation. And everything that we tried to do just didn't work out. And half of that first day, I was angry. I just wanted to go home. And then something just happened. And it was like, hey, let's make the most of this. And the next 2 days, even though there was nothing to do in Marion, Ohio, we played on that we would drive around. Oh, there's nothing to do here. Oh, another fast food restaurant. And before I realized it, I was having fun.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it perfectly illustrates their concept, which is, we can be looking at maybe the interaction with others, if that's something we enjoy, particularly, our significant other, that would be the pursuit of happiness. So to not be looking at happiness as the byproduct, but looking at the activity or interaction, whatever it happens to be, as the pursuit that we're seeking for, not all pleasure seeking, not hedonists, but just to be able to say, afterwards have that sense of fulfillment
Right.
and equanimity.
I think the sad part is that social media, and this has been going on for years, newspapers and magazines try to feed us, what's going to make us happy. And as little kids, in the grocery store, pointing at things and begging mom, to buy it for us. We think that as a little kid, we're going to be happy. Oh, I got this toy. Or Christmas morning, waking up and finding the item that you asked for. Oh, that's going to make me happy. And those things do, but they're just so short lived. But yet we've been trained to think that that is what is going to, take us to that place, in life where everything is wonderful.
Well, it's almost a form of brainwashing that we can't be happy unless we have those things.
Right.
And that is so unfortunate because, kids are so susceptible to that. They know it. They know all the ways to manipulate that. I'm sure there are studies on that. But, we're kind of setting ourselves up as a society to create that mindset of we can't be happy unless we have, the good job, the, college education, the, good salary, and, all the fancy toys and stuff. Well, what does that mean for people that don't have access to those things? I often think of the Maasai warriors in Africa that, the herding and those kinds of things.
Right.
Herding as in herding, not hurting. And, who's to say that they're not happy? Like, why would Western culture, apply that standard to them? And if it's not true in all situations, then I think it merits scrutinizing it.
Absolutely.
But how do we deal with that and more broadly?
Well, I know for me, and I think I've shared this before, um, it was a Christmas many years ago when I was feeling really sorry for myself. It was just Richard, Alex, and I at home. It was a year or two after his mother had passed away. And I was sitting here crying. And then I posted something on Facebook. And my brother in California saw it. And he picked up the phone and just yelled at me. I mean, I don't even think he even did that when we were growing up as kids, but he just yelled at me and he said, "Why are you feeling sorry for yourself? Why can't you be happy for what you have? Don't you love your husband? Don't you love your son?" Um, and all of a sudden, he put me in place, and it was like, oh my God, why am I crying? And I was crying because I wanted what I thought other people were having. They were with their family and everything was perfect, and they were wearing the cutest outfit of the day, and I'm still walking around in my pajamas. And more I thought about it, it was like, hey, this is pretty neat. I just get to lounge around today and be with the two people who mean so much to me. And my attitude changed. And from that point forward, it's like, you know, I just, I try almost every day to make something special happen so that when I look back at the day, it was like, yeah, Monday was a good day.
So how much of that is something for others versus yourself?
Um, it's, I find that if I am in a good mood and content with things, the people that I interact with um, will pick up on that. And so, again, going back to yesterday, thinking, how can I help make this great for Rich? All the things that went through my head, um, a special meal wasn't going to do it. I just knowing him. And so it, I got to the point, I'm not going to really talk about it. I'm just going to, no nagging today and just be content. And I just saw that change his attitude as the day went on.
So it has a contagion aspect to
Yep,
it.
exactly.
And so one of the things that Tal is talking about, the smart things, the smart way to pursue happiness is he has this whole process. It's called SPIRE, and each letter in that word means something. And we're going to explore some of those things going forward. But what would be the one thing today that would be that flipping the switch? Or let me back up. Let me say it this way. So where is the biggest risk of falling into an old way, the negative bias way of looking at things? Let's go with that first.
So today for me, it could be my husband asked me to do some research for him. And I agreed because, I was interested in doing it. Okay. It wasn't even just for him. But, anyways, he asked me to do some research for him today. And I guess what would make me not feel successful or happy at the end of the day is if I just put it off or forgot it and didn't do it. And that could discolor my day for me.
Great. And so how are you going to flip the switch? How can you change that perspective?
So the way I can change it is, um, this is something that I want to do. Um, and I'm going to do my best to work it into my day. If I can't accomplish it today, um, it's something that I can turn over for tomorrow. So it's not a burden on me. It's not making me angry if I don't do it. I may be a little disappointed, but it it's not going to ruin my day if I don't accomplish it.
And it's not a black and white, all or nothing. So
Right.
you're allowing that, if as you know, if your mindset is keeping your field of vision open to some other ways to be able to address it. It might be another day, or maybe you make some progress today, but don't get it all complete.
Exactly.
So what occurs to you when I ask you those questions in terms of a lesson to be learned?
We all have the control. And it begins with being mindful of what we need individually. You know, um, I'm not sitting around waiting for um, somebody else to, surprise me and all of a sudden, visualize this big gift box opening up because now I'm happy. Um, it may be contagious from that other person, but they they can't adjust my feelings.
Yeah, and it's some other things that pop up for me while you're talking are, yes, we do have control. We have control of about our, flipping the switch on our thinking, and we also have some control. We're always going to lapse into the negative because we're just hardwired to do that. But so not to be surprised by that, but we also have the ability to remind ourselves on the deeper why we're doing something, even something as simple as that, doing some research. But we can give it short shrift in terms of this is a task, rather than what is this a task in support of? And in that instance, what would it be in support of?
Um, so th- the research that I'm going to do is going to not only help Rich with some medical issues, but it's going to help me understand them better. Because if he hadn't gotten me involved in doing this, um, I wouldn't have understood something that he's going through. And so now, instead of him just sitting down and, telling me how he feels each day or every hour, now I'm going to be able to understand it a little bit better so that he can either get the additional help that he needs and I can be supportive of it.
And what does that do for you
Oh, it takes bricks out of my backpack,
in terms of?
not carrying his burden
And what does that do for you?
makes me happy.
And in what way does it make you happy?
That in this case, we're working together. I'm going to be more mindful of what is happening and um, therefore take some of that fear away, um, because the fear is what causes me to think negatively.
And how does that relate to the pursuit of happiness?
Um, it's just one more thing that um, I can do to see my happy sunshine.
Nice, nice. So if there's one thing you would want listeners to take away from the conversation today, what do you think it would be?
It's about finding that one thing that is going to help you flip the switch. If you woke up feeling, you know, it's Monday, I got to go to work and I have a pile of things on my desk. What is the one thing that can make that just a little easier for you? Maybe it's even asking for assistance. Maybe it's taking an extra coffee break in the middle of something. But there's always something that we can do, but we have to find what that is that gives us those happy moments. And like you said, none of us are happy 24/7. And if we stop believing what we see on Facebook, I think we'd all be in better shape.
Here, I agree. Yeah, there's so much stuff that's telling us that we have to be happy all the time, and it's just
Exactly.
not possible.
You know, I had somebody who noted that um, she and her husband took one of their children to Cedar Point because he was old enough to understand it. They left the siblings at home, and she documented like the whole day. Oh, and this was great, and this was even greater. And maybe it was, but I remember taking Alex to Cedar Point at just about that same age. And it was a horrific experience for all of us. But the best part of the experience is when we went back to the hotel and he just said, can we all, and he was like 5, I think, at the time. He said, can we just all snuggle together so that we feel safe? That made that whole experience so much better. But if that hadn't happened, I probably would look at that whole day as, really the worst day ever.
So it's just a perfect example of how, that one little, the dark day, the sunshine can break through the dark clouds and make it all memorable in a really good way.
Absolutely. So I challenge everybody, go out and find that happiness for today because it may be different tomorrow.
Yeah,
Today
the one thing that tends to bring you some kind of joy or sense of peace or whatever.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for an interesting topic as we talked about the study of happiness. And as you said, we're going to continue this in future podcasts. So I look forward to it.
Me too, Karen. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye now.